Let's talk about thumbs, not these. Thumbs.db. Okay, let's figure out what it is, what it's used for, how we can use it as forensics investigators. Boy, is it rich for us. Okay, images, pictures. Windows allow the users to set properties of any folder to allow the viewing of graphic files. When you go into that folder, you can say view as thumbnails, right? And it shows you those images. Now that's not actually the file, it's not actually a picture, but it shows you an image of that particular file, and that creates an indexing. If they actually are pictures, it's even better. Okay? So the system file, thumbs.db, is created with the info of all those different thumbnails that you've created. What's cool about this is that it actually speeds up the process of graphics rendering for the end user. So it helps the end user. They love it. They turn it on. That's what you want. You want them to turn it on. It contains the info of each graphic file in that particular folder with a little bit of an altered header there. Now look, it lists of the files and folders, their modification date, and also the container, also contained in the thumbs.db. It is a compound file read by the operating system. What artifacts can we get as a forensics investigator? Now, it's not perfectly synchronized with the contents of a folder, but it's really, really close. And if the user deletes the file from the folder and it's actually an image file, it still stays inside of the thumbs.db. And what's really cool is the thumbs.db can actually restore the files. So if you can get in there and work with that system and those files are deleted, but you see it in the thumbs, it's like, well, I want that file. You can restore it. Now, the thumbs.db file types that it actually stores, not your Excel documents, but it does take a picture of them, are all the graphics files and PDF and HTML files. PDFs would be pretty good, especially since people are doing a lot of printing to PDF. So each thumbnail created in a folder is represented in that thumbs.db. That it's a database. And each folder with the initiated thumbnail views will have a thumbs.db file. Usually what happens is the end user turns on thumb view for everything in their Explorer, and they leave it that way for all of those different Explorer windows, and then it starts populating that database for us. In Vista, it's a little bit different. We've got a centralized thumbnail database folder. Notice where it's sitting in: user account, application data, local, Microsoft Windows, Explorer. And then you'll see inside of there that there are a bunch of files and they've got different prefixes on them, but that's where you're looking. And that gives you one centralized location for all the graphics files on that particular machine. If you're doing any kind of CP cases, this is an excellent tool to get that data back quickly. There are a couple of tools for analyzing thumbs.db. The one that I like is dmthumbs.com. I think it's an excellent tool for doing just this. It's not an approved NIST tool, but it can get us where we want to go. It can restore files for us that we want to dig into. So when somebody deletes them, Thumbs will bring them back a different way. It's like having a second place for the recycle bin. All right, I wanted to leave you with a couple of resources here. Now, when we're dealing with memory dumps, there's a whole world out there. We talked about it in 2 slides. There's a whole world out there that's way beyond the scope of the forensics investigation course and the exam that we are taking. But you need to know about that. You need to reach into that based upon the operating system that you are an expert in. So I didn't do it for Microsoft. I didn't do it for XP, Vista. I didn't do it for Linux. You have to specialize in that area, and so that's why it's not covered in these courses, because this is a survey course and a survey exam. But the registry is definitely covered on this exam. What I've given you here should be sufficient for the task, but then as a forensics investigator, I really feel that you need to really embrace the registry, and there's an easy way to do it. First off, Peter Norris wrote a thesis called Internal Structure of the Windows Registry. that particular 150-page document, along with all the data files that he created, along with all the tools that he used, is in an ISO file that you can download so you can replicate his actual experiments there. It's all right there for you. It's a downloadable ISO ready to go. What happened was Harlan Carvey wrote the Windows Registry Forensics book for Singris, and what he says at the very beginning of his book is, I used Peter Norris's book, I used Peter Norris's thesis, and I went beyond it, so I added to it. The Registry Forensics book is talking about it purely from a registry forensics standpoint, and it's very strong as a tool. Peter Norris has to be a little bit more academic, and he says, okay, I've got all this other material in there, so this is registry book this thick, and of the data that's in there, it's probably 50 or 60 pages of that data is populated in there. Now, the other cool thing about Harlan Carvey's book is that he talks about his tools that he created, RegRipper being the big one. And he does demonstrations in that book and allows you to experiment with that tool, and he talks about it at length. The tool's free, the book's not. This needs to be a book in your arsenal if you are going to be a Windows forensics expert anytime in the near future. So those are our 3 resources, and that is the Windows forensics section of our course.